You have to break that barrier and tell your brain, hey, you are okay. You're going to be just fine. There's nothing wrong. Let's try this again. Welcome back. And we are now in episode 6 of the Back to You podcast. I am your host, Shalandra J, aka CJP, and I want to thank you for making the time to make your way back to you one step at a time by listening and subscribing to this podcast. I can't believe, you guys, we are actually in episode 6. I remember when I first started my podcast, I was so nervous and I did not think that I would make it this far, but this is what consistency and discipline looks like. So bless the Lord. We are on episode 6 and we are just going to keep things rolling. For those of you who are new here, this podcast is really for those who are either currently in their burnout season or for those who are ending their burnout season and is trying to figure out basically how to navigate life after burnout. And, burnout can look differently for so many different people, but the tools and the education and the tips and just my experience of overcoming burnout myself are things and tools that I hope that you will be able to use for your life as well. And it's not even for those who are in the process of overcoming burnout, but if you are just trying to navigate life yourself as someone in their 30s like me, hello, you are welcome, and I'm so happy that you are here. I think for me, episode 6 is really going to be talking about making space for the new. Making space for the new. Simply just making space for the new and unlearning a lot of what you thought life was going to be, a lot of what you thought life was going to look like, and you might have had a specific way of how your life was going to look at a certain age. But when you were going through your burnout journey and you realize that everything is crashing and burning, it's not for a bad reason. It's because God is doing a lot of construction to recreate the new. And so I just want to talk about making space for the new and learning how to make that transition of letting go of the past and what you thought what your life was going to look like in that moment, and making space for the newness that God is going to have in your life. When you are going through that transformation of change and you aren't really quite sure how life is going to look for you after burnout, and I don't mean anything along the grand scheme of things, I mean just your simple everyday tasks, your activities of daily living, your social interactions, your everyday routines. If you were like me and you were really burnt out to the point where it affected your physical health and you literally had to start over again, when I say making space for the new, this is what I mean. So for example, I always like to use myself as an example. For me, I used to wake up and I would allow my mind to just go super fast. Here's a task, here's this, here's that. Okay, I got to pray, spend time with God. But at the same time I was spending time with God, I was subconsciously also thinking about the task I had for the day. I was just constantly going, right? Not really good, and not good for your body and your cortisol either, right? So one thing that I did that I had to practice, and it took me quite some time, but I finally got it down, is I learned how to have slow mornings. And when I tell you, it is literally the best thing I could have ever done for myself. Slow mornings. Now, when I say slow mornings, I don't mean I'm like waking up and I'm like, oh, and the long, stretch and stuff like that. What I mean is slowly allowing my brain and my body to wake up for the day. Now, my brain knows that it has a lot of tasks for the day, but my brain has now been trained to know that those tasks cannot flood my brain until I press the start button for the day. Before I officially press the start button for the day, what I do is my alarm clock goes off and I do not look at my phone. I don't look at my phone. I turn my alarm off on my phone, and I will not look at my phone, and I will say a little mini prayer. Lord, thank you for this morning. Thank you for waking me up, blessing me. It's the end of the day. Okay, cool. And then I put on like my robe because it's cold, whatever. And I head into the kitchen and I make myself some tea. By me doing that, my body understands, okay, we are slowly waking ourselves up for the day. What that does is it keeps my cortisol at a calm, cool pace, and it keeps my body from being, it keeps my nervous system more so from not being so anxious right when you wake up. Your nervous system has the ability to just like woo saw. We can slowly wake ourselves up. So after I've gotten my tea and I have my kiwi, I will spend time with God. I will, sit down and talk with Jesus about whatever it is that he has on my mind. It might be a devotional, it might be a chapter in the Bible, or it might just be me communicating with him. However, my time with Jesus is in the morning. And it usually lasts for about maybe like 30 to 45 minutes. Then after I've done that, I will say my declarations for the day. And then my brain knows, okay, let's go ahead and press start. Boom, we press start, and here comes the flooding of all the tasks I have to do for the day. But now my body is more equipped to handle those stressors, to handle those tasks, because I allowed my body and my mind to wake up and have a slow morning. Also, before I go to bed, before in the past, I used to just, shower, be on my phone, boom, knock out, whatever, right? Lights on, everything. Now I have trained my mind and my body that around 8 o'clock, all right, time to start winding it down. Now, if I'm out, my brain is still going to function, but then it knows when I get home, the lights are getting lower, right? We're having low exposure to like TV and noises and things like that. So my brain can know, okay, it's time to bring it down. It's time to bring it down. Because if not, what could happen is you are so stimulated. And mind you, you've been stimulated all day from all the work stressors, dealing with just different things everywhere. And then you come home and the TV's blasting, or you might be like around the kids and it's just a loud environment, right? Now, for some people, if you're a night owl, cool, kudos to you. I'm not. But there's some point, typically, and it's scientifically proven, an hour before you go to bed, that you want to be able to start getting your nervous system and your cortisol to relax. And it can't do that if it has high exposure to lights, high exposure to sounds, and just high exposure to just different things, period. You want to be able to allow yourself that hour before you go to bed to bring the lights down. You can still watch your TV shows. I'm not saying you can watch your TV, but at least have the volume down just a little bit more. So your brain is saying, okay, our serotonin and our melatonin is now able to come up a little bit so we can go ahead and go to bed and have a good night's sleep. Because if you try to go to bed and your cortisol is super high, you can toss and turn the whole entire night. Another one that was really big for me, and I have kind of mentioned this before in my other podcast episode, is no longer doing things in a haste type of pace. When I mean, a couple examples is like brushing my teeth super fast, washing my face super fast, folding my clothes super fast, sweeping, mopping, vacuuming super fast. Why am I doing it so fast if I'm not in a hurry? It's because for a long time, my brain got so used to do things quick, 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 hurry up, hurry up, hurry up. Where now, I do a lot better now because I've, worked on it. But before, when I was in that kind of burnout recovery phase and I was getting back to my activities of daily living, and I realized, oh my gosh, like I'm vacuuming very fast. What am I doing? I would tell myself, take a deep breath, slow down, You're not being chased by a bear. You can do this. Just find a better pace for yourself. And what you will notice is that your nervous system and your body will adapt. So if you're in a rush, cool, I get you. But if you're not in a rush and you catch yourself like doing things kind of like you are in a rush, stop. Take a deep breath and slow it down just a bit. And your body and your nervous system and your cortisol will thank you. Now, the one thing about this, though, is that when you are having to make space for the new and you are having to make changes when it comes to different things in your life, it is going to be uncomfortable because for so long, your mind has been equipped to, okay, we do this thing this one way, right? And so when you try to do something new or at a different pace, your brain automatically thinks, oh, we're in danger. Why is she making us changes? What is going on? Even though your brain was reacting in chaos, your brain saw that chaos as peace. So now you are having to renew and rewire your brain on what this new looks like for you. And that is really where Jesus has to step in to help teach you a new pace. Is it uncomfortable? Absolutely. Because again, our minds like habits. Our minds like patterns. But what our minds also like too is trying something new. You just have to be able to break that barrier of your brain thinking, oh my goodness, I'm unsafe. Let me go back to my old habit. You have to be like, hey, you are fine. This is actually going to be really good for you. And once you get into that rhythm, that new rhythm, you will notice a huge difference. One thing that you're also going to have to come to terms with is you're going to be in the middle of two things. You are where you are right now in your recovery season, and you can look at your past and make a decision on, okay, once I get better, now that I am recovering, am I going to go back to what I was doing before with the mindset, the pace, the no self-care, the things that led me to my actual burnout? Or am I willing to step into the unknown, which is new, while God is leading me in this and see what lies ahead? You can go back to what you were doing in the past, but you're going to end up right where you were. Do you really want to get back on that hamster wheel and define insanity? You already know what the answer is. That is what I had to overcome, was that I had to make a decision. It wasn't the people around me. Of course, they were supporting me. They were encouraging me, but it was a decision that I had to make. And if I can be honest, it's so easy. It is so easy to slip back into your past, the same mindset, the same pace. But for some reason, even if it felt like I wanted to, there was like a wall where God was like, yeah, no, we're not doing that. I'd rather you face the uncomfortability and the newness and the unknown, because this is where I am, than you to go back to where you were. And I remember the days when I was on the couch because I couldn't, I was really sick. And I remember telling myself, I made a promise to myself, and I said, when I got better, because I knew I was, that when I got better, I made a promise to myself that I was going to do whatever it took to make the change so that I never ended back up on this couch again in the condition that I was. And if that means that I have to have a slow morning, if that means that I have to slow down my pace a little bit and find what works best for me, no matter what people think, say, or feel, that is what I'm going to have to do. And that's another thing, is that when you start finding a new pace, when you quote unquote are not running with the wolves anymore, people are going to think you crazy. People are going to be like, why are you moving so slow? People are going to say whatever they want. But again, this is you, your mind, your body. You know what you've been through. You know what you have felt. It's time to write a new. To other people, it might be uncomfortable because they are so used to running with the wolves. But for you, you're finding a new pace. And I am here to tell you that finding that new pace is okay. No, You are not slow. You are finding what works for you and your body. If you start out slow in the beginning and you end up going a little bit faster later on, that's okay. But for right now, you listen to your body and you find what works best for you. I remember when I was getting back into like socializing with people and, doing things like shopping and going out to dinner. Sometimes comments were made of like, why are you moving so slow? Or just things about like how I was moving, right? But for me, I'm over here like, wow, like I'm doing such a good job. Like I'm actually able to go out and do things not even knowing that my pace was a little bit different. I was just listening to my body and giving my body what it wanted in the moment. Now I'm a little bit faster, right? My pace is a little bit quicker, not where I'm running with the wolves because I'm not being chased by a bear. So why would I make my body and my nervous system seem like I am? When you feel that tensing sensation, take a deep breath and bring it down just a smidge. Your nervous system is going to thank you. Your cortisol, again, is going to thank you. Now that I have that pace, I'm a lot better. And there might be some days where your pace is up here and the next day your pace is down here. Guess what? That is okay. So I just want to remind you that when God is walking you into the unnew in your life and you're finding that new pace, and you are now having to make space for the unknown and for the new, don't try to make yourself get stuck and not break that barrier of trying something new. You don't want to go back to your past. You know what that's like. But now you're stuck in between, okay, I'm not going back there, but I also don't know what this looks like for me. Give yourself a lot of grace as you step into the new and partner with the Holy Spirit to ask him, yeah, God, what does my new look like? And again, it can be something as simple as your activities of daily living. I know one thing for me, if you have been in the car with me and you know how I drive, I don't drive as fast as I used to. Why? I don't have to. And I didn't realize it until one day I was on the freeway and these cars were going the same speed that I used to go. And I'm like, why are they driving so fast? When not too long ago, it felt like I was right there with them because baby, your girl was, okay? I ain't gonna shame. No, I'm gonna be real. I was right there with him. And I did not think that I was going that fast. But now that my pace has changed and I go a pretty good, decent speed now, I noticed that a lot of things for me have changed, but it's more calming and a lot better for my body. So again, I always like to use my examples to encourage you that when you are making that space for the new, it's going to be uncomfortable in the beginning, but you have to allow it to happen. It's just like anything else that's new in your life. When you're dating somebody, when you're riding a bike, when you're learning how to drive a car, when you were trying a new skill, a new language, a new hobby. Remember, at first, the brain thinks, oh my goodness, we are in danger. Like we want to go back to what we were doing before, but you have to break that barrier and tell your brain, hey, you are okay. You're going to be just fine. There's nothing wrong. Let's try this again. One example for me was back in 2024, one of my good friends and she was visiting and we were in LA. And prior to that trip, I wasn't really doing any extensive exercise at that time. And we were trying to think of different activities to do in LA. And the activity of walking to the Hollywood sign was an idea. And I'm like, wow, this sounds really cool. But I also, in my head, was kind of doubtful because I was like, oh my goodness, I don't know if I'm going to make it. What if I get up there and my blood sugar drops or something happens? I'm on top of a mountain. Like, what they going to do? Right? But I said, no. You've been working on this. You're going to be just fine. Even if you got to be in the back of a line, I still want you to go and you're going to have a good time. And my friend was very encouraging. She definitely was like, are you sure? We don't have to do this. If you feel comfortable, we will. But if you don't, it's okay. And I did it. And we actually ended up going farther than we were supposed to. But once we got to the top of the sign, and if I can put a video up here, I will. Once I got to the top of the sign, I just took that moment in because I knew how far I had gotten. And I knew even when I was walking the trail with the trail leader, I had thoughts of like, oh my goodness, like, what if I don't make it? But I had my snacks and I had everything I needed. I was totally fine. I knew that I was fine, but my brain had to get past that safety barrier to try something new. And we were, somewhere mid to the back, but it was okay. We took our time and I made it back down. Me and my friend made it back down safely. And those are one of the moments that I will never forget because it sparked something in my brain to be like, hey, okay, now our brain and our body can come together to say, hey, you know what? Your body's actually feeling better now. Your body can keep up with that pace. And my brain goes, oh, okay. So what can we do next? And that kind of sparked me getting back into where I am now, back in the gym, back to running my mile Mondays, back to dancing again, back to finding even new hobbies. And so if I did not allow that space for the uncomfortability for the new to happen, I don't know where I'd be right now. But I thank God that I am where I am. And I always want to be able to provide you with that support of that. If you're feeling that way, you're going to make it. You're going to be okay. And I'm here to tell you that. I hope that you enjoyed today's episode, but I always have a take home. I love my take homes. I gotta give you your take home. Yeah. Your take home for today. And if you don't know what a take home is, your take home basically is when I give you something that I want you to work on from now until the next podcast. So it's basically just keeping you accountable from what you have watched and or heard today. So your take home for today is I want you to write down 2 to 3 things that you feel like right now, rather if you are in your burnout season or your recovery season or just living life. I want you to write down 2 or 3 things that you feel that you could maybe step out on a little bit more. If you're in your recovery season and one of your things is today, I'm going to walk in the mall. And it might seem scary, but guess what? You're working on your socialization again. People did not realize when you have been under the radar for so long and you have been sick and you aren't used to the socialization again, you can't just get back out there and expect your body to be like, okay, this is cool. It takes a while to adapt. So if one of your things on your list is to walk around the mall, do that. I'm proud of you. If one of your things is to put your laces on and go for a jog. If one of your things is learning a new recipe, whatever it is that you were like, okay, I want to do this, but my brain is, I don't know, it's new and I'm not too sure. Take a deep breath, invite in the Holy Spirit, and just try it. I'd rather you just try it and see what happens. And what that does, you are creating that neuroplasticity. Okay, so that is your take home. And I really hope that you enjoyed this episode. Please be sure to share this with at least 2 people. Comment, like, and if you are not subscribed yet, what you waiting for? Huh? Just always remember that I love you. And thank you so much for making it this far with me. Thank you for supporting me. And I, again, love you, but God loves you more. And until next time, in every day, in every step, and in every way, I want you to always remember to never forget to make your way back to you, one step at a time. All right, until next time, see you later. Bye.